Hello and welcome back to Genesis Designs and Modelcraft, and welcome back to the DSPIAE Departure toolset. And this is a quick addendum because it turns out that I'm an idiot, and some of you probably know that already. I know that already. But my description of the use of the Parts Detacher, or as I like to call it, the zombie flick knife of doom, was incorrect, very incorrect actually. And the first comment I saw which pointed out my error made me feel very silly because it's really obvious when you know. This is not for ham-fistedly removing parts from a sprue vertically like some kind of chimp. No, this is actually for disassembling Gundams. This is a semi-complete Gundam that I mess with now and again. Anyone who's built one of these will know already, but I'll tell those of you that haven't. They, broadly speaking, click together. They press together. They're incredibly accurately moulded, and they clip and they click together like absolutely beautiful things. The problem is that once you've clipped one together, it's a devil of a job to unclip it. If you find you've clipped, say, a leg half together and you've forgotten to encapsulate the knee joint or something, so you have to prise it back apart again, it can be terrifically difficult to do it. And that's actually what this tool is for. So a typical sort of joint on a Gundam will look something like this. You can see the line. There is a deliberate sort of recess moulded at the edge of the part so that the seam line forms this kind of trench effect. And it sort of hides the joints quite well. Now I'm not going to actually prise this one apart at all, but I'll show you the sort of, I've not looked this up by the way, so if I'm doing it wrong again feel free to tell me, but essentially you can introduce this, because it's very thin at its end, you can introduce it in to the gap into the joint, and you can use it to help you gently prise the parts away from each other again. And of course the excellent thing is you can push it all the way in. There's a hip joint right there. You can push it all the way in so as you can apply pressure right where the sort of click posts are, rather than trying to lever it at the edges and just bending everything. So that's what this is actually for. So if any of you well, hopefully everybody that watched the first one will watch this as well and realise that I'm a fool, and that's what this is actually for. And clearly if you don't build Gundams you're not going to use it for that, but there are other things in the world that you can use a flick knife of doom on. You can use it for opening old school tinlets of paint quite happily. You could use it for anything like that. There's nothing too stiff obviously. And Lego, if you use Lego for jigs, which I do sometimes do, or if you like to build Lego on the side, which I also like to do, and you don't happen to have one of those little Lego unblockinator tools that you can get the bricks apart with, this would actually be ideal. Anything like that. So that's what this tool actually is. As a secondary point, I want to go back to the nippers again. I'm sorry, I'm going to do this. So I was looking around last night and I came across a short video, and what I should have done is looked that up and told you the name. In fact, give me a minute, I'm going to. But it was a fella that does Gundams, and again there have been a couple of comments on the main video about the set being aimed at Gundams. Don't be put off by that, peeps. Gundams are plastic model kits, just the same as the plastic model kits we build. So you know, this being pointed at Gundams isn't something we need to worry about. As an aside, the glass file, the siren file, we as aircraft modellers are liable to use this for polishing canopies, for removing seam lines on said canopies. The beauty of this in the situation of the Gundam is for removing sprue stubs, because these things are moulded fully in colour. You do not have to paint these if you don't want to. This one pretty much mostly is, I think. And Bandai are brilliant at putting sprue nubs and ejection marks where they're not a problem anyway. But if you don't want to paint the model, you need to be able to make good those sprue stub flaws to perfection, and that's really where something like this is going to, if you'll excuse the pun, shine. Anyway, back to the nippers. The said chap was showing the reason for single blade nippers. It doesn't really make any difference to the review, but I'm going to regurgitate that information because it made a lot of sense, and I thought it worth repeating for the rest of the modelling world. The Gundammers out there already know this stuff. So as I said yesterday, the single blade nipper, you just got the one cutting blade, the other blade is just a stop that effectively just supports the part. The reason that's a good thing is because of the way it cuts. So with a two-sided nipper, well, however good they are, however high-end they are, both of these are pretty high-end nippers, they cut in the same way, and it's relatively brutal. They don't cut with the finesse of a samurai blade, they kind of cut / crush, okay? So when you cut your piece of, I'm going to use this piece of sprue. Let me move the box out of the way and I'll proceed to work off camera where possible from this point onwards. Alright, so I've got a sprue here, a piece of sprue. I'll cut it with the Tamiya nipper first. No problem at all cutting it, and it's a fairly clean cut and it's a relatively level cut. But look at the damage. That part in the middle, the plastic is massively stressed because at the same time these twin blades cut, because of the taper, the shape of them, as they come together, they pull the part away. So you get this massively stressed area of plastic in the middle. And this is what Gundam modellers don't want, because if they don't want to paint their pieces, they don't want these stress marks all over them. The God Hands do the same thing, not quite as bad, but they do the same thing. And if I show you from the side, you can see the stress developing. See, it's pulling apart as those blades go through the material. Okay, doesn't really matter that much for aircraft modellers because we don't leave parts in bare plastic, but it's a relatively violent way of trimming things. The single-sided nippers, on the other hand, cut through the sprue. I'll show you the difference. Notice as I cut through this, the way the plastic is, because this is separate obviously from the main frame, is able to peel away as that single blade literally slices through it. There is still some stress and some damage because these aren't super high end nippers. There's a good one. Beautiful, beautiful clean cut. Now the more you try to take away, the more you're going to get stressed because you've still got that, there's still an element, if I go a bit further in, it's still going to try and pull the part a bit because of the thickness of the blade, it's inevitable. However, if you're just trying to remove a little piece of a sprue stub, you're going to get a lovely clean cut that's not stressing the plastic too much and not creating the big white stressed areas that you then cannot polish out because the plastic's damaged below its surface, so you can't polish it away, you'd have to paint it. That's the point of the single bladed nipper. So there is this there was a comment about how you're supposed to use a two-step process, i.e. use your standard nipper to cut the part away like so, and then use your Gucci single-sided nipper to remove those sprue nubs from the part with minimal damage to the plastic. So there's this two-step process recommended. The only real justification for rigidly sticking to using these type of nippers to remove a part from a sprue and then using the single bladed ones to carefully and beautifully trim them is to reduce wear and tear on these. There's no good reason why you can't use these to take a part away from a sprue, especially if the points you're cutting are massive. But these aren't too bad. These are quite a bit sturdier than the where they gone than the STA style ones. These are not very durable, and certainly if you use this type of nipper from DSPIAE, I would certainly consider using a sort of a cheaper, almost more sturdy nipper to remove the part initially, and then just use these for trimming for sure. So just a quick addendum really to the review video on the DSPIAE departure set. My bad, I'm very sorry about that, spreading disinformation and just generally making myself look stupid. I could have done research beforehand, but I wanted the video to have that live reaction aspect, and I suppose that's bit me on the behind this time. I'll probably never use this, in all honesty, and as I said in the review, the tweezers aren't much cop. But even with those things being the case, this set is absolutely worth it because the remainder of the parts in it are brilliant and are well worth the money in and of them. So that'll do for this one. Apologies for the bad information in the last one. I'll try and do better next time. Thanks very much for watching, and with all of that said, it only remains for me to say, until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.